Hello, it's Julie from Spellbound, and this time I'm going to show you how to adapt Chevron banding to make a little elasticated bracelet bangle. Now there's a little bit of give in this so that I can stretch it over my hand and it sits like a bangle around my wrist. Now it's going to be made in 6 colours of seed beads. And I've gone for the rainbow, so I've gone green, yellow, orange, red, purple and blue. And you'll notice that I've got different sizes of beads here. So I've got the green, the orange and the purple in size 8. And I've got the blue, the red and the yellow in size 10. And I'm going to alternate them around the design so the size 8s come out on the corners, making it almost triangular in cross section. You can do it all in size 10s or size 11s if you want to. And to make it a little bit elastic, I've got some elastic thread. Now that just runs down the core. This is the fibrous elastic that you can get, or you can use the Stretch Magic, which is the transparent cylindrical elastic. Either is suitable. And to actually make the weave, I'm going to use a Nymo D beading thread. I'm going to use quite a lot of this because I'm using it double. So all in all, I'll probably get through about 8 meters of thread. I hope you'll join me. It's a really easy technique. It's fun to make and you can adapt it in lots of different ways. Previously, I showed you how to make a chevron band and then double it up to make a bracelet or a choker. Now in those videos we were using bugle beads because that really shows off the lovely zigzag pattern and subsequent diamond pattern you get from chevron banding. Now, this makes a nice, firm, rigid band that's ideal for quite glamorous designs. However, we're going to swap now to do chevron banding in seed beads because that gives us the opportunity to exploit another little quirk that you get with this technique. Now, when you make chevron banding with seed beads, you get the similar sort of zigzag pattern, but you also get a little bit of stretch. Now that's because of the flexibility of these end connections that you get with seed beads. Now you do get a little bit of this movement with bugle beads, but it's best not to do this with bugle beads because bugle beads can chafe the thread, especially if you are expanding and contracting all the time. Now we're going to use this little bit of stretch to enable us to make a bracelet that doesn't have a fastener on, but is big enough to go over the wide part of the hand and then sit around the wrist. And depending on how big a bracelet we make, it will actually stand a little proud like a bangle. Now before I start, I'm going to measure how long a piece of beading I need. So I've got myself a piece of scrap paper, made it into a strip, and I'm going to make a loop and see what is the right size loop to just fit my hand through. There we go. And that's about right, I think. So that's the maximum length that I need my band to be. You see, that will make quite a bangle. Now I'll be able to make it a tiny bit smaller because the beading is more flexible than the piece of paper. But for the moment, that is my guide. Now I'm going to make 3 rows of banding. So I'm going to have 3 rows of zigzags and 3 rows in between. And row number 1 will join up to row number 6 and make a tube. And that tube will take a piece of elastic. And that's how we make the chevron band return back to size. Now I've got 6 different colours of seed beads for my 6 bits of beading I'm going to have. So it's bottom row zigzag, middle row zigzag, middle row zigzag, and that zigzag will link to that. So I'm chosen the colours of the rainbow, and I've alternated the sizes. So I've got a size 8, size 8, size 8, and size 10, size 10, size 10. And this is the colour order I'm going to use. The size 8 are going to make these horizontal bands. So I'll have a horizontal band in purple, in orange and green, and the zigzags are going to be in blue, red and yellow, the size 10s. Now this particular zigzag has got 4 beads going up and down on each zigzag. That will make quite a chunky bangle or bracelet. So I'm going to reduce mine down, so I've only got 2 beads in each zigzag. That's quicker to do and it makes a neater size bangle. I'm going to put that there so you've got the reference, and I'm going to start beading. Now I've got a double thread and I've tied a keeper bead quite near the end, and my first band is going to be purple on one edge, red for the zigzag and orange for the other edge. I'm going to start with 2 zigzag beads, an edge bead and a zigzag bead. Now if you've done the other videos with me, you know the first stitch is always different from all the others. So I've got 2 zigzag, 1 band, 1 zigzag. And I'm going to pass back through the first of the 2 zigzag beads I put on. And that gives me my first little stitch. Now I'm going to put on a band bead for the other side. That's orange, and 1 red bead. And I'm going to pass back through the last bead I put on, which is this one here. Back towards the purple band through that one. And that's my second stitch. Now it's quite hard to see the zigzag when there's only 2 beads. Let me do another couple of stitches and we'll be able to see the pattern start to appear. So the stitch is always 1 size 8, 1 size 10, so it's a purple and a red, and back through the last zigzag bead, the last red bead I put on, and that's the next stitch done. Now I'm down on this orange edge, so it's 1 orange, 1 red, and back through the previous red bead. Now you can see it's quite hard to discern the zigzag, but it's doing that. Let's do another couple. So it's a purple because we're on the purple edge, and a red bead, and we go back through the last red one I put on. Okay, now we're on the orange edge, so it's an orange and a red, and it's back through the last red I put on. Let's pop that down. Now if I release the tension a little bit, you can see the thread path more easily. So we're doing, there's the zigzag, and if I compare it to this chevron band, these purple beads are the equivalent to this pink line here. The red beads are the equivalent of the green, and the orange beads are represented by this pink line here. Now I'm going to continue with this row, so it's purple, purple, red, and back through the previous red bead, and orange, red, and back through the previous red bead until my band is approaching the same length as my measured piece of paper. and then I'll check my hand size and I'll be back to you to start the second row. So I've continued with the same technique and I've made a band that's just long enough to fit over that part of my hand. Now when I compared it up to my paper pattern, it was just a little bit short, but when I stretched it out, that's that little bit of stretch we want, it's just the right size. So I was about a centimetre short of my paper pattern in the unstretched state. Now I need to join one end of the band to the other. Now I started with a purple stitch, I went 2 red, a purple and a red, and I finished with an orange stitch so that I've got the same number of orange beads along one edge as I have purple beads along the other. We're now going to make the join. Now to make the join you need to make sure that the band isn't twisted. So make sure that the purple beads are all along one edge and the orange beads are all along the other, and we haven't twisted it like that. And now we're going to make the join. Now the join involves adding 1 edge bead on each side. So it's purple first because I've come out on the purple edge. So it's purple bead on and down through the adjacent 2 red beads. And the 2 following red beads, I should say. And let's pick up an orange and go up the 2 on the other edge. That's the join made. We've just replicated the zigzag stitch. Now I'm going to move along a little bit before I start the new row. I'm doing that because the join is obviously more vulnerable than the parts of the bracelet. So if I start the next row a little distance away, then when I make the join on that row it won't be right up against the join on the previous row. So I'm just moving along, following the thread path. And we're going to join onto the purple edge. So I just need to get back to the purple edge. There we go. So here's the join down here, and here's where I'm going to start my next row. Now to join onto the purple, I'm going to have my zigzag in blue and the other edge in green. So I need 2 blue and a green. That's going to come up to the edge. That's going to sit on the edge. So I want 1 blue, back through the very first blue and through the next purple along. And that's my next row started. So it was 2 blue, a green and a blue, and back through the first blue. And now we've already got our edge bead on, so instead of putting on purple blue, I'm just putting on the blue. I go back through the previous blue bead, and then the following stitches 1 green, 1 blue, back through the previous blue bead and through the next purple bead along the band. So that's the thread end from previously. Let's just line up those 2 green beads so you can see them on the edge. There you go. Right, next stitch is just one blue bead because we've already got the purple attached. So up through the previous blue bead, and then this stitch is one green, one blue. So we go down through the blue bead and along through the next purple. And again, I'll line up those green beads so you can see that they're making that edge. And I'm going to continue. So my next stitch is one blue up through the previous blue towards the new edge of the work, and the following stitch is one green, one blue, down through the previous blue and through the next purple along. So I'm going to work that row and I'll be back to you to join it up and start the next row. So I've been working around the band. As you can see, it's quite pretty already, and I just need to make the last join. So I'm going to put on a green bead through the blue bead on the opposite side, through the second blue bead further down on the first side, and through the purple bead, and that completes the chevron. Now I can start the next row. So again, as before, I'm just going to move a little bit of a distance from the join. Now I'm not as concerned as I was last time because I haven't also got a thread end there, so it's quite firm already. Now I'm going to roll the band, and we're going to link the green beads to the orange beads using yellow. Now I also want to put a little bit of elastic down the centre of the tube I'm going to be creating. Now you can just hold it in place while you do your first two stitches, but I've found it's annoyingly keeps falling out. So I'm going to do a few stitches first and then I'm going to insert the elastic. I need to work out, and I fold it accurately in half so you can see the orange beads want to fit between the green beads, and that gives you your chevron. So 2 yellow through the orange bead on the opposite side, 1 yellow through the first yellow I put on and through the next green along. And that's that first stitch done. As always, it's slightly different than all the others, and all the remaining stitches are just 1 yellow bead through the one you put on in the last stitch and through the next edge bead along. So that's through the orange, and then 1 yellow through the yellow bead I put on the previous stitch and through the next green. I just have to watch the thread tension here because it's gone a little bit strange. So it's 1 yellow through the last one I put on and through the next edge bead. So I'm going to go along and join up the seam all the way around. I'm going to do 2 more stitches, then I'm going to insert the elastic. So that's 1 and 2. Right, so there's enough of a join there to actually hold the elastic in place. Now I'm using this fibrous elastic. You can use something like Stretch Magic instead, and I need 2 thicknesses to go down the middle of this. So if you're using Stretch Magic, one thickness of 0.7 will do the job, or 2 thicknesses of 0.5, or 1 thickness of 1 millimetre. Now to get it to to go down that gap. I can thread the two ends in, or I can use a little bit of thread. So I've got a needle threaded there through the loop on my elastic, and I've still got the two ends of the thread from my needle there. Pass back through, and let's use the thread to pull the elastic through. There we go. And I'm just going to make sure as I do the stitches that that elastic runs down the channel. So it's yellow bead through the previous yellow and up through the edge bead. Yellow bead through the previous yellow bead and up through the next edge bead. I'm going to continue until I've gone all the way around, and I'll be back to show you how to finish off. So I've been working around the seam. As you can see, it's quite neat once you get going. And I've come around and I've just got a few beads to add. Now at this point I've decided how tight I want my bracelet to be. So I know it'll stretch over my hand because I measured it before, and I want it to be a little bit of play. I don't want it to be really tight on my wrist. You can if you want, but I like it like that. So at that position I have tied the two sides of the elastic together with a double knot. Now I've made a reef knot and I've painted it with a bit of nail varnish or nail polish, or a bit of super glue will do the job as well. And I've let it go completely hard, and that means that I can now trim off the ends. Let's make them a little bit shorter. I don't want to trim right against the knot because it's just asking for trouble really. So there we go, that's better. And that will hide inside the channel. And now I've just got to complete my seam. So let's get rid of those bits of elastic I've just cut off. Let's see where we are with the seam. Okay, so it's one yellow and through the green. One yellow back through the previous stitch. One yellow and an orange. Right, now to fasten it up we go down that orange there. Sorry, down the yellow there. And we need to add, do we need to add a yellow bead? No, we don't. We just go through this one here and through the green. And that completes our chevron pattern there. Elastic is just pushing out there, so I'll push it back in. And that's our seam complete. Now I need to finish off the thread. So I'll come down, because I'm using a dark thread, I'm going to fasten it off between the dark beads. It's less likely to show. There, so let's make a double knot. Pass through a few more. Perils of using a double thread, catches on everything, but we need it for strength on this type of design. That's our second double knot. Pass through a few beads before we fasten it off. Or snip it off, I should say. There we go. I move the beads out of the way. That is our bracelet complete. And I just slip it on. I can wear it whichever way round I want to. Clip it off again. I think those would be quite nice stacked up. Now I've got a little one here that's just 2 sides of weaving. So instead of this one's got 3 sides, this one's just got 2, and that's made with size 10 throughout. And I've got another one here that's 3s again. So you can see, nice easy technique, fun to make, and it makes the most of all the wonderful effects and colours you get in seed beads. Thank you for watching. See you next time.